Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The invocation and the pledge of allegiance will be led by the city attorney.
Thank you. Everyone, please stand and bow your heads. The scripture today will be coming from Galatians chapter 6, verse 9. Let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. Lord, we ask that you prepare our hearts and our minds for the business that we're about to undertake today. Allow us to be fair, impartial, and approach this with the understanding that the work of the city must be done, and it is our responsibility to do it. We ask in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'd like to thank our city manager for calling for our invocation and our pledge. At this time, we will have our reading of our notice, our city's clerk, followed by our meeting.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Public notice. City of Waycross, Georgia budget hearing. Proposed budget submitted to the city commissioners for fiscal year 2027. May 19, 2026, 3:30 p.m., 417 Pendleton Street, City Hall. The purpose of this commission meeting is the submission to the commission of the proposed budget for their consideration. All citizens of Waycross are invited to attend. Handicapped citizens requiring assistance to attend the meeting should make their request to the city manager's office. Telephone 287-2912. Back to you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. At this time, we look to our city manager to give us our presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Before I begin, Mr. Mayor, I would like to read a quick narrative, not a quick narrative, but an important narrative. Before discussing numbers and projections, it is important to recognize the financial challenges many families in our community and across the country are currently facing. Rising costs for groceries, fuel, insurance, utilities, healthcare, and housing continue to strain household budgets. The city of Waycross is experiencing many of those same pressures through increased costs in public safety operations, infrastructure, fuel, materials, insurance, utilities, and workforce retention. This budget is not about expanding government. It is about maintaining essential services, protecting public safety, sustaining infrastructure, and responsibly adapting to real-world economic conditions. We have worked hard to prioritize efficiencies, review spending carefully, manage overtime, evaluate contracts, and focus resources on the service residents depend on the most. We understand every dollar matters because it matters to the city as well. Our goal is to balance compassion with responsibility while ensuring Waycross remains operationally stable, service-focused, and prepared for the future. Mr. Mayor, we're making this statement as it further mirrors your statement, the state of the city. We do understand, I know the commission fully understands and recognizes the current tone of this country right now financially. As we proceed through this budget, we'll make sure everybody knows that up front. There was some difficult decisions that need to be made this year that we're going to have to make, or they'll make themselves for us in the future. Additionally, I want to thank up front to our finance department. They definitely put in some difficult some more man hours this year than ever before. And I want to thank them for the great job they did, as well as the department heads really digging down to the budget to find cost savings when they can, efficiency when they could, and then understanding some of the decisions I ended up making at the end. So it was a great team effort. With that, Mr. Mayor, the agenda is a little bit different for the commission this year. So far as the agenda, we added a budget myths versus facts. I added that because since my 3 years presenting this budget, every year we end up going down explaining myths throughout the whole budget process, and waste a lot of valuable time. And unfortunately, it has cost us from making critical decisions because we spend so much time on those myths. So I want to lay down some of the missing facts that we've dealt within the past, and some of those missing facts that you, the commission, have received from some of your constituents. We also added a FAQ, just as answer some of the questions that we already know have been floated out there, and that'll hopefully explain some of the challenges and some of the decisions made within this budget presentation to the commission. Next, we added a budget terminology. I'm going to use some words and phrases that we don't typically use, but we're going to make sure that our residents understand those words, or terminology. As mentioned yesterday, when we did the legislative update, and some of our service providers provided input on why they were facing some challenges as well. And then we'll get into the budget presentation itself, and then we'll seek some guidance at the end.
Yes, sir.
So that's the agenda, Mr. Mayor, and we're going to start with some missing facts. Mr. Mayor, we have a lot of slides. I won't cover every slide verbatim. There's a few talking points each slide. There are a few slides I will read verbatim just because they need to be read verbatim so that our residents truly understand some of the challenges that we face. When I say challenges, I don't mean that it's the sky is falling, but these are real world challenges that are on us now based off a lot of factors that need to be discussed. Starting with the myth versus fact, Mr. Mayor, and I'm gonna start with the one you most all hear, or one of the ones y'all most hear. This great technology we got, sometimes it can be overpowering. The city wants to raise fees, and this is what I'm gonna read. So no government, including us, wants to increase fees or rates. However, maintaining today's level of service requires paying today's cost of service. For a long time, our residents here have not paid real costs for services that are provided. And when we were able to do that, that was fine. But moving forward, we will not be able to do that in select areas which we discussed throughout the budget. Without responsible adjustments tied to real operational costs, I'm saying cities, I'm meaning Waycross, but cities around the country, we're not different from most all cities, eventually face service cuts, equipment failures, staffing shortages, or delayed infrastructure improvements. Next, Mr. Mayor, on our missing facts. I know many of you hear this as well. A budget is just a list of money the city wants to spend. That is also incorrect. A budget is a financial plan that balances revenue, keyword there, expenses, next keyword, operational infrastructural needs, emergency reserves, and long-term plan to keep the city functioning every day. This is another important statement. I don't think, unfortunately, all our residents truly understand what a budget is. Again, they cannot be compared to a credit card or a bill. It is also not, it's not static. It is a moving target based off of revenue and expenses, which might fluctuate or change throughout the budget year. Mr. Mayor, Commissioner, you can see those other missing facts. And again, Mr. Mayor, we just want to make, this kind of clear. We don't want to go down this hole again of chasing, I'm going to use the word lies and falsehoods like we normally do for budget hearings because it's distracting and normally, typically, it hasn't resolved anything and it wastes our time. So as you deliberate on the budget, I want to make sure it's clear that you're deliberating on the facts as is, the data as is, so the commission can make the ultimate choice on some of these recommendations that the staff made. And not highlighted, Mr. Mayor, but I do want to bring up, if costs go up, the city should just absorb it. Now, this will be covered throughout the budget about why we can't just absorb everybody else's inflation. That's just another important fact that our residents should be aware of on why we cannot just simply do that. Well, let me take that back. We can, but if we were to, then we would stop doing certain things, if that makes sense. All right. Next, Mr. Mayor, Commissioner, we're going to move into the frequently asked questions. Okay. You see that some of these are typical, but unfortunately, a lot of our residents just don't, during their busy lives, have time to really understand some of these questions. Of course, what is the city budget? Who approved the city budget? What do we spend the most on? That will be a theme as well, because the most money that goes directly to our services, which is provided by our workforce. There is no free money. All taxes go to those men and women that provide daily service to the city of Waycross. Another common question that continues to come up during these budget hearings, I want to go ahead and put it to rest now, and I'll read this verbatim. Can the general funds transfer funding to the water and sewer fund? Answer is yes. As you know, we've had this validated by GMA a few times, but it continues to circulate, so I want to answer it right now so we can get to the more important question later on. The general fund can transfer funding to the water and sewer fund in certain situations. This sometimes done to cover shared operational costs associated with service such as utility billing. That's a workforce down there that does utility billing. Administrative support, that's them as well. Customer service, that's what they provide. Financial and accounting functions, they support that as well. IT support, just do systems down there for utilities, enhancements, and then fleet of maintenance conditions. So, again, we know this, most of our taxes go directly to the workforce. All right. And again, one of our fixed accounts, Splosh. Where does the city's monies come from? What does the city provide funding or support to other entities? Mr. Mayor, this is another important one. We do provide support to our other partners in the amount of funding for traveling, training, and operational needs. And I'll talk about that during the briefing. Then again, I know residents sometimes ask about these other agencies that we provide financial support to. We have the Downtown Development Authority. And you can see there what their role is in big picture, big scheme. What is the Development Authority? See what their role is. What is the Land Bank Authority? You see what their role is. And where to get. Again, all these organizations, the city provides finances to, as well as access to our public works and our emergency services. Why they're important to the city, you see what roles and functions they provide to the city. And then, Mr. Mayor, you see what is the goal of the city budget. I'm going to read this one, although it's not highlighted. The goal of the city budget is to responsibly balance service delivery, infrastructure investment, workforce stability, financial sustainability, public safety, community growth, long-term operational needs. The budget is ultimately the community's plan to maintain and serve today while preparing for the future. All right. All right. All right, Mr. Mayor, the next one that came up, this typically comes up every budget too. I want to go ahead and clarify this so we can go ahead and lay this to rest. Yes, my salary is $110,000 for my position. I am considered CEO level, suite seat level position by role of my charter, and people are the things that I'm responsible for in the community that I serve. If you look other examples within the city, if you were looking at salaries, the school superintendents, and this just an average, we did the 4 counties and cities around us. School superintendents make about 140 to 200K. Principals commonly make about 10 to 130. Head football coach makes about 110 to 120 for the high school. County and city managers, just comparing on average, about 100 to 180. And this is kind of based off of their role and responsibilities. So I'm providing this feedback to the commission. So when they get that question, this is why I make the 110 that I make. Again, I have not asked for a raise since I've been here, and my salary was not made by myself. It's what the commission decided upon me coming in on market value and the skills that I possess prior to coming here. And again, you see why its position is compensated at this level. And just for further guidance, on the previous two city managers before me, Their salary was $119,000 and $130,000, just to make that clear for everyone, if they need to know about salaries. All right. All right, Mr. Mayor, next we're gonna move into budget terminology. I want to start with the CPI. You heard that mentioned a few times yesterday. This will also be mentioned when we talk about utility rates improvements as far as our water and sewer and wastewater. I'm going to read what the CPI is. I encourage our residents to look that up because that is the model that we use, as well as many other businesses when making financial decisions. It's a measurement used to track inflation by monitoring the average, that's the key word, the increase in prices for everyday goods and services such as food, fuel, housing, utilities, and inflation. The overall cost increase in prices over time, inflation impacts the cost of fuel, materials, labor, healthcare, equipment, and operations for the city. And then there's a few other items here, of course, COLA, cost of living adjustment. We'll mention that a few times during the presentation. Labor costs. And I want to go ahead, I didn't highlight that, but I want to talk about labor costs. This cost associated with employee salaries, the benefits, the retirements, the health care, overtime, and workforce operations to include the sister services that provide service to our city of Waycross. Kind of different from material costs. I want to explain material costs. We've had questions when I mention material costs or the increase of that to the public, so we'll read this as well. The cost of supplies, and then when I say supplies, that's supply chains as well, which is still being impacted from COVID. Construction materials such as asphalt, concrete, pipes, which all has went up and risen up to at least 50% in some cases. Equipment parts and other items needed to maintain city operations and infrastructure. You see the definition for SPLOS, overtime revenue, expenditures, and then I'm gonna talk about the general fund. I'm gonna reference the general fund quite a few times in the briefing. This is the city's primary operating fund used to support services such as our police, our fire, our public works, administrative, parks, and general operations of the city. Balanced budget, grants. I want to talk about fund balance. That will be mentioned as well throughout the briefing as we move forward. This is the amount of monies maintaining in a fund after revenue and expenditures are accounted for. That's that zero balance. Anything left over is a fund balance. It's not a profit. It goes to our revenues. It's often compared to savings reserves for emergency or future obligations for the city. That great word, millage rate. I'm sure everybody knows what that means. And then last, as far as terminology, we want to talk about the audits. And I'm going to read this so everybody fully understands what an audit is. And I will make mention that yesterday, if you heard what the GMA rep said about audits, I'm going to speak on that a little bit. Out of, and Mr. Mayor, you know this more than I do, the 572 cities, cities and counties, but then you break that down further to just the cities. And I want to say we have over 300 cities. Over 300 cities, a third of those cities have not been in compliance with the audits since 2022. That's a big statement for our city. I want to thank the finance department again. I know my first year here. Now we have been late for the audits, but since that time, they have ensured that the audits have been done professionally and conducted on time each year. But to the public, audit is an independent financial review conducted by outside auditors to ensure the city's finances, spending, accounting practices, and reporting are accurate and compliant with state laws and accounting standards. And again, I said almost 1/3 of Georgia cities are non-compliant this time. So that's a big deal for the city of Waycross being compliant, because this does allow us to qualify for grants, specialized grants, and additional funding from the state and federal level. I want to point this out. I know we have communications through some of your residents about audit, which is a requirement, versus forensic audits, which is not a requirement. And a forensic audit for our residents must be triggered by a finding. A finding can only be triggered by three, as you know, Commissioner Mayor, 3 reasons. And then that must be, if anything is found, the commission itself has to call for that financial audit. No one else can do that. So All right, Mr. Mayor, that kind of completes those first 3 sections. I'm gonna pause there for any questions that the commission might have. I just wanted to put that up front because I know, again, based on the past, we went down some rabbit holes on stuff. First part, people not knowing what they don't know. Second part, just again, I'm using these strong words because they need to be used. People sharing lies and misinformation. And then third part, people not knowing or understanding terminology. So I want to make sure we put this up front. That way we can move on to the real business of making sure that the commission passes this budget in a timely manner, and then we get to doing the business of the city. So I'll pause for questions on these first set of slides.
Just to comment on something you said, and I thought it was quite interesting that you brought it back. Attorney Reynolds made the comment that of the 536 cities, about 145 of those cities did not comply with doing their, and that's one of the reasons why we've had difficulty with the General Assembly giving power to cities.
Correct.
And they actually have been nailing cities now because of inactivity. Like, for instance, if we did permitting and it charged a certain amount and you didn't go after that person who didn't do what they were supposed to do, or you didn't do things in a timely fashion. So we have more deadlines now as a result of it, and we also have more things that we're made responsible for the cities. So when we stand before them and testify before the General Assembly, whether it be the House of Representatives or the Senators, we still have to deal with how they view cities based on these 145.3 cities.
Okay. Totally agree, Mr. Mayor. And I didn't mention it here, but they have additional requirements placed on cities as far as reporting procedures, beyond audit reporting procedures, especially for some more of our restricted accounts. Definitely all our SPLOS and loss and all those type of taxes. So although people might watch TV and see certain things and movies and stuff like that, some of those scenarios are humanly impossible because there are measurements in place to, I'm gonna call it check measures in place to ensure that we handle money properly and we account for it properly. So I will say that.
Yes, sir.
Are there any questions from the commission, Mr. Mayor, before I move on?
I'll open
to
the floor
budget?
to the commission to ask any questions they may have, and I'll start with District 1,
No, sir.
District 2,
Nothing this time, Mr. Mayor.
District 3, District 4,
No questions.
and District 5.
All right, Mr. Mayor. All right, Mr. Mayor, this time we're gonna move into the actual budget. And again, this is a collaboration between the staff and the directors. We did have to make, some hard and difficult decisions this year. I had to cut back some things where we will be assuming certain risks with our protective services, and I'll mention that later on through the briefing, but we've come to that point. And like I said, we had a lot of great input from the staff. I was able to circulate some of the budget and some of these slides to our staff members for their input, and they gave some great feedback to make sure this kind of came off the right way and landed well with people who might not, like some of our residents who don't see this every day. So we try to keep it as simple as possible. So in some sense it might be a little bit generic. We didn't want it to get too complicated and confuse anybody. And again, to go back to the first 3 portions on the missing facts, the terminology, and FAQs, if you have legitimate concerns or questions, there are 13 ways that you can reach out to the city for these questions to get answered. Of course, the primary reason will always be to talk to your commissioner first, and the commissioner will reach out to me and the staff, and we'll get those questions answered. But again, Facebook is not our primary means of communication. So if you ask questions there, if we get a chance to look at it and answer them, we will. But if not, then we won't. So again, you have 13 ways to communicate to the city if you have any requests for information. All right, Mr. Mayor, so this year's physical theme is balance and sustain. I'm going to read this verbatim. So balance and sustain reflects the city's commitment to managing the realities of rising inflation while maintaining the level of service our residents expect. As operational costs continue to increase across fuel, materials, labor, and infrastructure, the city must balance these pressures with sustainable revenue sources and responsible financial planning. At the same time, we must sustain the essential services that support our community and invest in the workforce that delivers them. The theme emphasizes disciplined decision-making, aligning the true cost of services with available resources while ensuring long-term stability, service continuity, and organizational strength. Mr. Mayor, this is the quad chart that most of you are familiar with that we do each year. I'm going to speak most off this quad chart as far as discussions. Going to start in that first upper left block. These are the budget internal inputs that are uncontrollable from the city's perspective. We mentioned this already, so I won't stay long on these. Of course, the rising fuel costs, that was a big one. Hopefully that cost goes down, but again, we cannot be sure. So at the time of making this budget, we had to assume the fuel costs would keep rising. Healthcare and insurance, you all have received that briefing on the healthcare issues we already face right now and the challenges moving forward that will be with that. Contract labor and materials. You were briefed yesterday by our three main service providers, well, two of our main service providers, about their hardships with the organizations and why they requested contract modifications. And then again, overall inflation. And again, the city cannot manage. Well, we manage inflation, but we're not in control of inflation. Next, Mr. Mayor, I'm gonna go to the right side here where it says budgets, internal inputs that are controlled. So of course, we can control our workforce talent management initiatives, and those initiatives, and you'll see these throughout the slide deck. So of course, in a perfect world, we would provide raises and COLAs to our workforce every year. But unfortunately, we're not in a perfect world right now, so we can't do that. But working with the directors, we have implemented several initiatives to kind of be in place for the raises that we cannot provide or the COLA that cannot match what our workforce might want. And I'll discuss some of those initiatives at the end of this briefing. Of course, retirement benefits changes. We made that change 2 years ago, and we're starting to see that change right now as far as our workforce retires. So that's something we can is controlled. Of course, resident service. So I'm saying that's a controlled measure because if it gets to a point that the revenue and expense don't match, we have to make certain decisions. Then certain services they will not be ever cut, but they might be delayed or deferred. And then, of course, workforce overtime. We definitely got to cut down on that. That it became an exceeding cost that we could not maintain. Understanding the workforce, of course, loves overtime, but it was killing the overall budget. So we're going to scale back on that, and we'll closely monitor overtime between our big three as they consume most of the overtime of the city. Some of the inputs and discussion that we throw out here, of course, will be the COLA. We're asking for a 2% increase this year. When I get to the fee increases, we will be asking for utility, water, sewer, waste collection adjustments. Some of that you heard yesterday, and then I explained some of the other requests for increases as we go through contract fee adjustments. And then finally, you have the fee adjustment Schedule E in front of you. So if you think about it, typically, we're going from 1% to 100% increases as far as real cost requirements. So the 100% is only two situations where we're going 100%, and that's going to be lease and another area which I discussed during the briefing. The lease, of course, I've made my comments on lease, so we're going to do that. We need to maximize the funding coming in for that. And the right hand lower side, additional budget discussions. Just if the commission does not agree with certain increases or certain deferments, then we would need to talk about deferment of certain services. And that goes back to my comments about using the parks as a reference. Maybe only cutting the 5 big parks every week and the 5 smaller. Well, we got 16 other smaller parks, the other 16 smaller parks, right-of-ways, maybe bi-monthly or every quarter. That's something we can talk about if need be throughout this budget process. And then creating other revenue streams. We need to consider looking at some other revenue streams that are done by other cities. Now, granted, that will be difficult to do, but I did want to mention that moving forward. Next, Mr. Mayor, as we present the budget, again, as y'all reading it now, you'll see there's a decrease in the overall budget, but we don't want that to, that's not mean that costs went down. That just means that we lost some of our major funding, and that includes ARPA, FEMA, and SPLOST. Now those funding sources were great for the workforce and for the city. We were able to do a lot of things, but that funding is now gone. We have to move on from that. Right now we have our We have an active SPLOST. 2023 is our main source of revenue. And, that's just tailored to be for specific purchase items. But I wanted to say that to everyone, so you kind of knew. When people look at the budget, ask you questions. When the budget went down, it did. But that's because we lost those big streams of revenue. In the same token, Mr. Mayor, the budget may have went down, but our general fund went up by $1 million. And the general fund is, again, that's the fund that we pay for our services to. And I'll talk about this more throughout the budget. But again, it went up because there is a continued demand for essential services and the rising costs to deliver them, the rising real costs to deliver them. Again, fuel, operational costs continue to rise across the departments, mainly our big three, public works and our public safety. This has affected overall department and their department budget increases to almost 7% increase in those areas from last year. But again, that's driven by higher fuel consumption, more maintenance, higher maintenance costs, and more equipment costs. Construction and infrastructure costs have also escalated significantly industry-wide. Increases in materials such as asphalt and concrete and steel, as I mentioned earlier, are ranging from 15 to 30% over the past 2 years, and this is a low number. So depending on when we do the contracts and who we do them with, it can be as high as 50 to 75% on these materials. Again, directly impacting project affordability and again, real world costs that we have to really start being aware of as we budget. Next, Mr. Mayor, this is the sales tax. So sales tax is going to be one of our biggest funding sources, and you can see there over the years how much sales tax came in. 2024, we had about 3.8 million, about a little bit over 4 million in 2025, and then we had 4 million in 2026. This number's been fluctuating, but the issue with the 2026 number, although it came in relatively high, because it's so inflated, it didn't go as far as that 4 million should have been. Actually, when you remove the inflation, that's probably about 2.5 million. So I need the commissioners to kind of understand that and talk to your residents when they see these numbers. They have to put in for the inflations to truly understand the impact that they're having on the budget. And again, as mentioned earlier, with rising costs across the board, it's going to be, and the proposed changes with property tax caps and all those things, we have to start figuring that in right now, because we don't want to wait till next year, depending on how elections go, and they continue to make that change as far as property tax caps, because it's really going to affect how we provide services in our operational day to day. You can read that, Mr. Mayor. This is still talking about inflation, but in other words, inflation is reshaping consumer behavior. This goes back to the sales tax discussion. Households are prioritizing necessities over discretionary spending. Retail and local businesses activity becomes less predictable. Sales tax revenue becomes more volatile and harder to forecast. I make that comment again. You got the briefing from GMA where they mentioned the floss and other types of sales tax. And the word tax, not necessarily a good word with many people. So we are really concerned about how far that's going to go. Because if they are allowed to vote on certain things and it does not pass, we will definitely be in a situation here at the city level. And again, I just want to make sure everybody understands that we're really focusing on the real cost of delivering services. And again, I recognize that everybody does not understand what the real cost is, and quite often we mention this to our residents. And I'll use an example. That $9.95 for that trash collection pickup they pay is not truly $9.95. Especially if they put paint in there, we gotta pay another $20 to get rid of the paint. Same thing with the trees not being the proper length. We gotta take them to the agent. They gotta cut the trees up, ship it down. That's another $35. If the trash can out there on time, it's another $25. Then you add on gas and fuel. These are real costs. And then for a while, I tried to eat them, but at the same time, there's no way the city can eat these costs. And that's why we need the residents to be more responsible on these type of things. And I'm having these conversations now, and they might not be, as they mentioned yesterday, sexy, but they need to be had so our residents truly understand some of their decisions from day to day. Mr. Mayor, now I want to talk about, Mr. Mayor, I need to go back on something. I was going so fast, I was in that mode.
That's all right.
Let me go back
that bottom line there. I didn't say anything. I normally ask questions about numbers like that.
Oh, yeah, let me go back. So in front of you in your gray binders, you have the Schedule E, if you can pull that out. And I don't have the Schedule E here, but when they post the budget, after this meeting today, we will post the budget. Again, this will still be a draft version. This will give the commission time to look over the budget over the next few weeks until you have your own budget hearing on June 2nd. But if you look at that, the Schedule E, fees and charges, so throughout here you will see where we made the requested increases on certain services. And I'll go over a few of these. We talked about the cemetery, and again, this is like just getting back to real costs. And y'all see those areas that we discussed there. Those don't affect many people. As you go down, you'll see we left a lot of the costs the same, or we added a cost to some of the areas. Some of the inspections are gonna go up a few dollars. I'm trying to get to, if you go to page 7, that's when we start about really discussing some of the impacts of our fees. And again, a lot of these are CPI related as far as inflation. Engineered soil erosion, we kind of went on there, 10% for the most part on page 7. And that's from the 1.10 acres all the way to 6.99 acres.
We don't have page numbers on these things.
It's not down the bottom there, miss?
Mm-mm.
Okay,
At least mine doesn't.
can't read it.
So
Let's do this, and if
maybe
you
you
go,
can read the headings or something.
yeah,
It's
if
under
you-
engineering is what you're talking about.
yes, so it's the page that says animal shelter adoptions, we'll start there. And then it's two headings, animal shelter adoptions, and then engineer soil erosion sedimentation.
Okay.
Are we there yet?
Is that? Yes.
All right. So that's where we start the increases.
Okay.
All right. If you flip that page, it continues, and we go into engineering and stormwater. And again, this is the real cost to do these activities. When you factor in engineering data, if we got to pull plots, if we got to take any measurements, all those have to be added to these equations moving forward. If we flip it over again, we're going to the waste management monthly fees. And you see there's yard trash, residential garbage, extra residential cans, commercial cans. And I will say, are y'all on that page, Commissioner? Okay, you will see all these costs. I know we're gonna see that these are raises, but again, if you heard from Brian yesterday, they're not making any money because of their fuel increases like we are as well. But these costs, in most cases, you're talking about dimes and pennies up to $1 in some cases. But overall, those nickels and dimes will add up and allow us to kind of balance our budget. Alright. So waste management still, you see the boat yard, all that stuff remains the same. You flip it over, we still in boat yard collections, dumpsters cost week, and dumpsters cost every 2 weeks, and that's going to go up again to reflect Ryland's request for the increase. So we put that into the budget here. And again, if you look at the costs, these are the big dumpsters, so these costs are going to be a little bit more higher, but these are not typically costs that residents would do every day. And again, we go to the dumpsters again, next page, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks, additional fees. And then if we go to the next page, it's gonna be water and sewer, and this is the main one that's probably gonna get the most questions and feedback. As you remember, we did put in place a few years ago the CPI, stay with the CPI, and do a 3% raise every year to catch up. I know some of you are new to the commission, but you know when we had the 2 water studies done, we were about $20 behind what our water should be costing. And granted, we knew we couldn't just charge all that up front, So we decided to do smaller increment increases over the next 5 years. And this is reflective of those small increases or increment. Most of our residents have a meter that's 3/4 or 1 inch. So as you can see, that cost there, we're talking about 90 cents and $1 going up. As it gets bigger on meter size, we're talking about more commercialization and private businesses. And then you get to the irrigation meters. Of course, you know that's for the smaller ones and mainly the yard ones. As they get bigger, that's more for the farm users. And then the next page will reflect that as well. The meters that they increase in size. And then we get to the water and sewer base meter rates for our fire lines. And again, these are to be in line with the CPI model to keep up with inflation, consumer price index. And you see the price goes up with the increase of the meter. The next one, commission, is going to be the water volume rates on residential. And that's per gallon. And that's volume, so that's usage. And you see it went up there, and that percentage again reflects inflation. And again, it's not that much. You can see it used, and typically most of our residents don't go beyond 10 gallons usage a month. And again, I will say this for the commission, definitely those coming on board, we did do the rate increases for base rates and utilization or volume rates. So it's two in there. You see there was rates multifamily, that's more commercial, apartment complexes, stuff like that in nature. Then sewer volume rates per gallon, that's our sewer rates. Again, to compensate the inflation. And then before, as far as the sewer rates, the sewer base rates, because we were not charging on those sewer base rates before, we had to add that as well for each meter. You can see those new costs. The same thing about placement of new meters. For a long time, City of Waycross paid for the meters and the placement of the meters. No city does that, and we're eating that cost. And you can see how much the actual meter costs and to place it, and we're eating that cost. And it's pretty much what's crippling us, especially now as we have all the meters about 7% replaced. When people have new homes or new installations, they will need to pay for those new meters now. So again, we were not doing it in the past, and it was drastically costing us. So those are, again, real-time costs for these services that we have to be doing.
In this case, we will be discussing also the taps that have to be paid
Yes.
for as well.
So the water, the next one will be the water taps, Mr. Mayor. So impact fees, water taps, relocates, upgrades, sewer taps. So
And the implementation of this will be July 1.
July 1, yes, Mr. Mayor. And then you say, so we're on the page that says impact fees, water taps, relocate, upgrade, sewer taps, and loads to disposal via leach. And that's going to be a big driver there. So we did increase that by 100%. And just so again, so the commission is familiar with this. You know, some of these meters, you know, they cost about $3,000 alone. And like I said, we have been eating that cost for a long time. I'm not sure how we got there, but we cannot sustain that any longer. And then we get to other rates and charges, and those service fees are kind of remaining the same. Stormwater is going up 40 cents. And then the last one, you're going to see the liquor and package sales. And those are our new rates there that we just passed last year. So, Mayor and Commissioner, you do have time to review these adjustments, but again, I will and ask that you truly understand. Like again, these are real costs, and we got to do something. We don't have the revenue to continue to eat that inflation for everybody else. So we had to make the adjustments, and again, these adjustments are little, they're incremental over time to eventually catch up with the inflation costs as well. And Mayor and Commissioner, you have time. You want to go back and really look at those numbers.
Yes, sir. Okay.
You have time. You got any questions about that? You can reach out to me and we'll answer those questions.
Okay.
The next part, Mr. Mayor, I want to talk about the service provided to our residents is delivered by our skilled professionals in our workforce. And again, we talk about a balanced approach to our water and sewer rates and essential services to our customers to make that work. But more importantly, we have to figure out something with our workforce. So we were only able to do a 2% COLA, cost of living adjustment this year, but that still accounts to about $400,000 across the board. I am looking at other means to support our workforce. So some of those things that we're looking at, our public works and our fire and police to a certain degree when we're doing different schedules. Abbreviated schedules, 50-hour work weeks where they'll be getting Friday off. We see that practice across other communities, or 10-hour days, and they'll get that day off. I'm going to request to the rest of the workforce will get a half a day on Fridays, so that 52 Fridays that they would get would account to about $285,000 too, which might not on the surface seem like much, but you will be not working and still getting paid. So that would account for a little bit of the COLA that we cannot give them up front. I'm making this decision. We've been looking at our Fridays. Typically, it's our lowest impact day as far as people coming in. At the same thing with our technology, people can pay online, pay through the app, all those services. Key people will still be here on Fridays, including myself and select personnel throughout the whole Friday. But I do want to make sure that we find some kind of way to reward our workforce because they are being impacted by inflation as well. And again, we can't meet the salary wages that they deserve for a lot of reasons. So you'll see those proposals throughout that budget book as well that you have. Mr. Mayor, for our residents, what this kind of means, so we're going to maintain the service that we provide. Definitely our core services are police, fire, public works, and daily operations will continue, but may require some revision based off of many factors. Again, with the sales tax, the validity of the property tax that might change in the near future. So those decisions will come when they have to come. But we're committed to providing that quality service that we do. We will do continuing investment in our infrastructure. So all our projects will continue to happen as far as roads improvements, draining and capital projects. This is possible because we do have that SPLOST 2023 that goes for another 5 years. So that should not be impacted by any future changes made at the congressional level of the state. We're going to protect and support our workforce. So again, during the state of the city, as well as I think HR gave a briefing a few months ago, and we've really been retaining our workforce here. I want to highlight that as far as our turnover rate. Particularly in public works, normally they're gone in 6 months. Once they hit that first hot summer, that's why I'm really working hard to look at how their time is managed, doing those basically 8 months out of the year that it's hot. But really between June and September, then we got to figure something out. The same thing with our fire and our police. Working with both of the chiefs on scheduling, so we overlap more, so we don't have to take all this overtime in. Because it is consuming and we can't sustain that over time. But when doing that, we will be assuming certain risks. We will be assuming certain risk period. But we'll have to manage that as we go along. And again, we're doing these things because we're going to keep investing in our workforce. Also in the budget, when you go through and look at the actual budget presentation you have on your tablets, I did make other cuts in general operating fund each department has, so we cut back on that. So what that means, there will be less, less stuff outside of the typical operational stuff we'll be doing. So less get-togethers, less barbecues, less paying for other things, because we got to really start managing those type of costs. We will still do activities for the workforce. I did not cut that part in HR. I kind of increased HR's budget because they kind of facilitate those special events for the workforce. Anything else that we do for the workforce, it'll be through fundraising and then out of pocket in some cases. Training and traveling, I did make an amendment to that for the commission and myself, and I scaled back $1,000 from everybody's traveling based off of the last 3 years, how much we actually spent on travel and training, and as well as the operational generate operational budgets of the commission, because y'all typically don't use that money. It's been in the budget, but it kind of just been there, so I removed that as well. And you'll see that in the line items as you go through the line items when you're reviewing the actual budget that I presented y'all. And then some of the other bigger cuts, again, overtime. So we did cut overtime in the police and fire roughly about 30 to 40% in certain areas. And a little bit in the public works. But again, that was a cost we could not sustain. So what I'm alluding to is that the city did do everything we could do to cut our costs down, so that none of that was based on the taxpayer, the tax base. But at the same time, we have to face the times of real costs, and we can't pay for every real cost out there while we support all these different services. I will be speaking to those other agencies that I mentioned that we support about their travel and training, because they will be, I will request they'll be cut a little bit too. And I feel like they can do that. Everybody doesn't need to go. They can send a representative to training, and that person come back and respond to that particular agency. So we're all going to take a step back on that training. With the training, I will note that the commission, myself, there is mandatory training requirements, so we have to go. That cannot be cut completely from the budget. We have to go, and we cannot do it online. There's in-person required training, as well as the other required meetings that mayor has to attend. So I left that alone as well. But I definitely wanted to show the city that we were definitely trying our best to cut back where we could, when we could, and how we could. But at the same time, we're still dealing with inflation and rising costs of materials, parts, and labor. Also for the city, our residents, we're making those target adjustments for the fees and rates, as I mentioned in the book you have now. And when you really go through there, you'll see there's not really a large amount. I know some people are going to complain about that, but I will ask them to compare those rate increases to any other city. And they can find somebody that's done that lower than we can, then we'll go back and look at it. But across the board, everybody's going up on water and sewer. It's just the associated cost right now that we all have to deal with. It's the same thing with utility fees and our contract fees, as mentioned yesterday by those agencies. These adjustments, they've been measured. They are necessary. If we don't make those small amount adjustments, then we need to make small amount cuts. And that goes again to frequency of work and priorities of work. And that could be a separate conversation if it needs to be, Mr. Mayor. And then the last thing, operational efficiency and accountability. We want to continue our efforts to reduce fuel consumption, operational costs. That's why I'm saying I really want to go to the town work week to get done, to kind of cut down on the equipment and the fuel, and the same thing with the energy on half a day Fridays for the rest of the workforce. And then manage risk with decreased overtime and other cuts into the budget. So, and then our commitments to be responsible for taxpayer dollars still. In closing, Mr. Mayor, sustaining our service requires aligning today's costs and today's resources, because what we choose to fund ultimately defines the level of service we can provide. So we made a lot of tough decisions this time. I'm not going to say tough decisions. We made some right decisions that we should have made probably last year when we saw this ball coming down here about the change in revenue for cities and counties. So again, I'm pleased with the budget that we're presenting. You, on your desk and your tablet, you have a copy of the whole budget with each line item and the changes. You have the scheduled e-book with the fee increases and the changes. And in the back of the budget books, the Schedule E is there as well. We will post this first draft of the budget tomorrow by 10 o'clock. for our residents to review. And then I think the next commission, your public hearing, I think it's on 2 June, when you'll present the budget again with any changes and all changes that you recommend between that time. And with that, Mr. Mayor, I'm going to pause for any questions or comments.
I want to comment first and say thank you for the hard work. This is definitely necessary. And if we want to call it an evil, it's not necessary evil, but it's also a necessary evil. In the sense that when you made mention of cutting certain travel training for us, I understand that. And I know that some of the organizations that are represented through these authorities, they generally have to have everyone on that team trained. So sometimes they can't just send one. So you may get some pushback in that area. But other than that, I think this was very well done work. And I'll open the floor to the commission to respond or comment. And then we'll start with District 1.
I just have a question, if you don't mind.
Yes.
And I think you did mention it, but I mean, you do, that water trash is a hot topic. So we have reached out to maybe another company to see what their bid was. I mean,
Yeah, so Ryland's locked in 2024 for 5 years.
yes, sir.
So we can't just end that contract right now.
Yes, sir.
But we did reach out to other companies during that negotiations, and at the time they were the cheapest. And but I can provide that data if you need me, Commissioner, to show you some of the costs. I can use them right now for the City of Augusta.
It ain't necessary for me, but you know.
I'll say out loud
Yes,
for
sir.
this
Yes,
residents.
sir.
Yeah, so I pay trash in Augusta and Columbus, and my trash in Augusta is $25 for one-time pickup versus the $9 here that we pay, and my trash in Columbus is $36. So just as an examples, you know, I know it's apples and oranges in some cases, but I do feel like that's the lowest cost we're going to get, and there's a 5-year contract already, and they did that 5-year contract and took that low cost based off the fact they would have the longevity of the 5-year contract, hoping to make up that cost over time.
All right, sir. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
District 2.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I appreciate the job that you did, Mr. Rayford and department heads and employees. Because, I think y'all took it serious because it's a serious thing that had to be done. And I applaud you on the job done. I understand citizens not going to understand. I'm going to say this also. I don't know when the can got kicked, but before I left here, it was agreed that on the fees, they would be looked at every 2 years.
Yes.
So someone kicked the can down the road and it ended up in your front yard. But anyhow, I applaud you for a job well done. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. And District 3. Okay. And District 4.
None at this time. Appreciate the job all the department heads and everybody did. You know, anytime we look at having to make cuts, I mean, I know I'm in retail. We've learned to do more with less, and that's just the ongoing theme. So I appreciate everything you guys put forward. I'm sure we may have questions and you'll have answers, but I appreciate, you know, the job y'all did.
Thank you, Commissioner. And District 5.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. Mr. City Manager, this is a great presentation. I looked over several days ago and I tried to find areas that needed adjustment. I couldn't. I'm impressed. Your team did a great job. My concern at first was for the employees. Those 10-hour days and half an hour on Fridays are great. I mean, because a lot of cities are going that way now.
Yes.
And we have to keep our good employees.
Yes.
So I think the job well done. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
And Ms. Mayor, if I can, so just again, we'll put the whole budget book. It'll be online tomorrow at 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock, good, you think? 10 o'clock, good, and then that does have the entire line-by-line budget item, the book, the link y'all have, and the Schedule E is in there as well, so they can, the schedule fees is in there as well. I neglected to mention, back to the workforce, because as you mentioned, we got a great workforce. So, you know, we do have some other things that might not seem tangible like funding, but we are child care friendly. I know, Mr. Mayor, you know that being up here half the time, we got some visitors a lot of times. So I do want to highlight that because I do want to make that a strong point. that the commission does allow. And they do get Christmas bonuses, and y'all done great as much as you can by them, definitely with the longevity and some of the other changes to retirement and their benefits. I know maybe our young employees can't see that right now, but I think they're starting to see it, and then like I said, the directors have done a great job trying to figure out these scheduling. So I do want to make sure everybody understands we always have somebody on call. So that would not be the case, and then with technology, there'll always be other means to, if you want to pay something. So that'll always be there. But we do have a great workforce. So we are looking at a few more things that I want to try to implement. I'm waiting for some feedback from directors as they kind of work it through. And again, we know that might not seem as a money thing to our workforce, but when we calculate it up and we did all the days off and the time off and all those things, it kind of met that mark that we're trying to do as far as supporting them for the great things that they do every day.
Yeah.
So.
We certainly appreciate it, and I know Commissioner Nelson wants to speak to what you've just spoken to about. And I just wanted to add to what you're saying. One of the concerns I had initially, looking at where we have been in times past, I know the directors would come and make their presentations to us. And they would ask us, they would come with ideas, say for instance, they wanted a new fire truck or whatever it was, or a new ladder truck, however it was. We would listen to that, and then we had to go back and look at what funding was there that could be put in their particular budgets. But their budgets oftentimes reflected what they knew past events that had taken place. So we're really excited about looking at what you've done, because I know you sit with the team a couple of 3 times a week, whereas you meet them in the beginning and do a briefing, and then near the end of the week there's a debriefing. So there are things that you've given them opportunities to give. I think it's that quadrant that you showed us is what they also operate in. And it's a great thing to see that when they come in, they give us what they've done in the past, what they're doing presently, what they're planning on doing in the days to come. So it's amazing to see this camaraderie, one with the staff and the directors, along with you, and then coming to make that presentation to us, because we don't know all the hard work that has been taken. We can only look at it and see it, but we can't know by time frames. But we do want to commend you for that. And so with that, I wanted to tag Mr. Nelson. And I'm not saying tag you're it, but he will be speaking.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. City Manager, can you, when you put this online tomorrow, can you, well, I can't speak for them, but can you put my cell phone number on that and encourage them to call me, because I want to hear their feedback on this, because I think this is a good product.
All right. And we can do that. Okay. Yeah, we do that. And yes, Mr. Mayor, one more final talk. I want to close it out. So when y'all do y'all budget hearing, the directors will be available for questions. Like I say, y'all got questions on their budgets. One thing I forgot to mention, the 2023 SPLOST, that's what we're going to do the bulk of our equipment this year. And we're going to start back up in July as far as equipment. We sat down and kind of analyzed what we want to purchase pretty much each month as that funding grows. So that will be a good thing, because we'll be able to get the fleet turned over a little bit. And once we make a few more purchases like the police cars, then we'll start the enterprise changeover. So in a few more years, we'll catch up with all that, and it will be cheaper long run. So I will say that.
Very good.
And
Well, with that, if there are no more comments or questions, we will move to adjournment, because I know that the great commissioners may need to take a small break. I know the big mayor does. So at this time, I'm going to entertain a motion for adjournment.
So move, Mr. Mayor.
We have a motion from our Mayor Pro Tem. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second from our Commissioner Tompkins. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion carries. We are adjourned.